Macca's Guides.
Hey guys, Macca here. In today's video, I'll be counting down the 10 hardest and longest completions on the Xbox One in 2015. If you've personally completed any of these 10 games, you have some serious bragging rights, and I have mad respect for you because I certainly don't have any of these completed. First, we'll start with some honorable mentions. These games did not break the top 10, but were pretty close. The Witcher 3, Black Ops 3, Guitar Hero Live, Scream Ride, Quantum Rush, which is kind of in a category of its own, Gun World, and Plague Inc. You guys were close, but you didn't make it. Now, I've spent the last couple of days researching these games and went as far as going into an Excel sheet and making a formula to rank them. I'm sure people will have different opinions about what their hardest and longest games are. In their opinion, these are mine based on my findings and my research. Again, if you disagree, let me know in the comments down below. This is my list though, so let's get started. Coming in at number 10, I have Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which will clock you around 150 hours. Luckily, it's not that difficult. I'm going to be ranking it a 5 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. But what do you need in order to actually complete this game? You need to complete all of the missions, all 50 of them, with an S rank. Then you need to complete all 150 side ops. You need to do all the key dispatch missions, get all the blueprints, get all the key items, find all of the animals, then complete all of the mission tasks for all of those 50 missions you did already. And while doing that, you're going to be spending a whole lot of time playing the little in-game mini-game known as the Mother Base, where you're constructing platforms that take literal weeks of time in real life for you to actually unlock. So there's a lot of stuff here behind time gates that you're going to have to physically wait for, meaning even if you have 150 hours to play straight, it is not possible to beat this game in like under a week or two, even if you have an unlimited time and no sleep schedule. Add to that, like I said, getting an S rank on every mission, which isn't that hard, but it's not the easiest thing you'll ever do. And then a little bit of that random factor when you're capturing wild animals can lead to a pretty long and tiresome experience, although very rewarding because of how well this game plays, in my opinion. I currently have 755 GamerScore in this game after playing for over 150 hours, which includes a little bit of idling my Xbox in order to get some of the in-game timers to come down. But yeah, this one's really long. It's not that hard, but mad respect to anyone who can max it out at 1,000. Next up, at number 9, we have Forza Motorsport 6. Now, it's no secret that these games usually take forever to complete, but Forza Motorsport 6 is a little bit unique in the fact that it adds some actual skill-based achievements as well. We have the typical complete every race at first place in career mode, which is the basic 150 hour grind that a lot of the Forza games have. Luckily, we can set our difficulty down pretty low, race with the best cars, and not really ever have to worry about losing. However, Forza Motorsport 6 also has a ton of online achievements, which for the most part are for participation, but a few for using specific car mods like manual and not using any assists at all. And there's an achievement for winning a 24-player multiplayer race after starting in 24th spot, which is pretty ridiculous. You have slim odds at getting in a 24-player race, pretty slim odds at being the 24th player in the starting lineup, and then once you're there, the amount of cars that are going to be crashing in front of you for the entire race, ending up finishing first, that's a serious feat. For that reason, this game is going to be clocking in at number 9. Hopefully they learn from their mistakes. They made a little bit of progress towards some better achievements in Forza Motorsport 6 than in previous installments, but there's still a little bit to be desired here, in my opinion, especially when it comes to originality. In at number 8, we have Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which initially shipped at 1,250 GamerScore. You can get a pretty good chunk of that under 20 hours if you play co-op with 4 friends, completing the campaign on the hardest difficulty and collecting a bunch of the collectibles along the way. However, it gets a little longer once the game starts asking you to play online, reviving teammates, spotting enemies, completing 100 games of the new game type, reaching level 100 and re-upping, which is made significantly easier via double XP, and then the kicker, seriously, kill 10,000 people in versus competitive matches. Now, the Seriously achievement is nowhere near as hard as it was in the original Gears because of the new game types introduced into the Ultimate Edition, However, 10,000 kills in Gears of War is still a lot of kills. This isn't Call of Duty, Battlefield, or Halo where kills come easy and they come fast. They don't come that easy and they don't come that fast. 10,000 kills takes a long time, a lot of dedication. This is a game you're going to have to play every night for at least a month to even slightly consider getting up to that seriously achievement. For that reason, we have it in at number 8. Next up, in the 7th spot, I have Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition, a game I know too much about. I've played this game for over 40 hours and only have 300 out of 1,000, and that's probably above average considering that they've patched the game significantly since release to make boosting and getting levels even harder than it was already. To get a considerable amount of the achievements, you're probably going to want to get a group together to work through a lot of the heists and get the heist-specific achievements and trophies out of the way. Eventually, you're going to be grinding up to a higher and higher level. I believe there's about 70 missions in this game, which will all need to be completed at least 4 times. Yep, once on every difficulty, and the difficulty does not stack. You're going to have to do it on normal, then on hard, very hard, and then overkill. But overkill is only unlocked once you reach a certain level, and then after overkill, there's a death wish difficulty, which is incredibly hard and basically saved for people who are an incredibly high level. After getting that all out of the way, which is very unlikely considering how hard the death wish difficulty is, you're going to have to get to at least level 100 and then re-up, and then do a whole bunch more heist-specific achievements, which get very, very specific and very difficult, such as playing the hardest mission on overkill difficulty while everyone uses stock guns, stock armor, and no skills. That's just one of the very many achievements here that are going to take an absolute killer amount of time, patience, and skill. This one really does involve a lot of time and dedication into the Payday series, clocking most players over 160 to 200 plus hours. Up next, at number 6 on the list, we have Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which for a brief period of time actually shipped with the ability to kind of use cheats in order to help you out, but that was quickly taken out and the game quickly became a 10 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. So, The Binding of Isaac is a randomly generated RPG shooter with heavy roguelike elements. What that means is that every time you play it, it's different. And every time you're going to get something slightly different getting in the way of you attaining your goal. Now, you're going to have to beat this game a lot of times, like 40 times. The thing is, beating this game doesn't take that long, but you're probably going to die most of the times you try beating it. The thing is, beating it is not as easy as it sounds. Most players probably won't even be able to beat it for a single time and get a legitimately good ending out of it. So first you're going to have to develop that skill, then you're going to need to be able to beat the game multiple times with multiple characters. Eventually you'll get a decently 100% rating in the game, but that's not quite enough. There's an achievement called the Real Platinum God, which is for getting the real 100% in the game. That requires you to see every ending and pick up every item. The thing is, you can't actually pick up every item until you complete all the challenges. Completing all the challenges is incredibly difficult, but if you do manage to do that, afterwards you're going to have to pray to RNGesus to randomly spawn you with one of the items that you need to fill up the page to unlock this achievement. Yeah, it's a long process, it takes a lot of dedication. Aside from that, you're going to need to really love this game if you want to beat it with all characters against all 6 bosses. It is really a grind and really reserved for those people who love The Binding of Isaac. And I'm not one of those, but I know it's a very passionate crowd. People get hooked on this game. It is possible. I don't want to discourage you, but it has a very big learning curve and a lot of skill. And developing that skill can take players a very, very long time. If you're already incredible at the game, it can probably be done in less than 100 hours. But most players, as I've said before, this is a trend in this video, will be taking over 200 hours. Next up, we have Smite. Now, I talked to a lot of people in order to get some of my facts straight about this game, and some of the people I spoke to have played for hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours, and still don't have the 1000 out of 1000 that the game originally shipped with, let alone the 440 GamerScore that was added via DLC. Now you will need to master at least 40 gods in this game. Mastering a god can take anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 hours depending on the player and the god, and you'll also need to get mastery 10 with one of the gods, which takes about 30 hours with that one god alone. Just the god stuff takes over 100 hours already. Add on top of that the fact that you need to rely on some of your enemies to use certain items in order to get certain achievements, and the fact that this game is a MOBA, therefore played very seriously and has a very high competitive ceiling, meaning that if you're a new player getting into Smite right now, it might be very difficult for you to get good, play ranked, and be competitive. On top of that, you'll have to get a pentakill in a qualifying match, which is a feat in itself. You'll have to be the only god alive on either team in Conquest, Assault, or Arena, which is a very rare occasion. And like I said, you have to rely on certain stuff happening that doesn't happen very often. That's the reason why only a couple hundred people have ever completed this game out of the thousands upon thousands who've tried it. And again, there's a DLC which makes it even harder for those looking for that little bit of extra challenge. In the fourth spot, we have the ironically named Threes, which is a puzzle card game similar to 2048 if you've ever played that. Basically, you have a game board with cards that start as low as 3. You're going to be manipulating those cards to generate larger and larger numbers, getting to 6, 12, 24, 48, 96, and keep going up in multiples of 2. Now, most players will be able to get up to the 768 card. Really good players will be able to double those up to the 1536 card. However, you're going to need to double up again and again to generate a 6144 card. Now, if you don't know how this game works, it doesn't sound that bad, but trust me, this is incredibly difficult. Now, how difficult is it? Well, it's so difficult that the game doesn't even guarantee you that it's possible. Apparently, only 1 in every 50 game boards that are randomly generated are even able to produce this card if the player makes every single right move. That's right, you might be the best player ever and you still won't be able to generate the card that this game wants you to generate because the game board does not allow it to happen. There's only one person in the world who has this achievement. I'm not sure how they attained it. Add on top of that all the achievements are at odd values, which are a major turnoff, and the fact that they want you to do a lot of card manipulation with 3s, 6s, and 12s in order to design specific patterns on the board, making this game really truly only for those who are really into this game and really love manipulating game boards and card games and puzzle games. Yeah, this is not a game for most people, and especially not at the difficulty that it's at. Next up, we have Rare Replay, which a lot of people are going to argue about because at the beginning of the video I mentioned that we're counting down the hardest completions that are 1000 out of 1000. This game has 4000 or up to 10,000 if you want to count all of the additional lists that the game comes with. Either way, this game is very long, very hard to complete. You're going to be playing 30 different games for $30. And the 15 kind of first games are each going to take between 2 to 3 hours to complete for the average person already clocking in almost 50 hours just on the easy and kind of old half of the game, the games that are smaller. And those are actually very skill intensive, a lot of them like the Battletoads Infinite Tunnel, and there's a lot of other ones in there that are very skill intensive. But then once we come into the late 90s, early 2000s, we'll be playing games like Viva Pinata, Grabbed by the Ghoulies, Perfect Dark, all of the Banjo-Kazooie games, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. Each one of those games is anywhere between 10 to 15 to 25 hours each to complete. And even if you've done a majority of them beforehand, it won't be quite enough to unlock all of the achievements in Rare Replay retrospectively in getting all the stamps and badges that you'll need to fill up your aficionado card or whatever the cards are called in the menu. This game is going to take players 200 hours, even if they've done a good majority of the games that were previously available. And with that being said, some of the achievements, especially in the playlists, are ridiculously hard. You need to complete back-to-back very hard challenges with less than 5 lives, which most players just genuinely won't be able to do. Now, the number 2 game was initially tied with Rare Replay for its score in my little algorithm Excel sheet. However, it ended up getting the edge because there is a leaderboard achievement. Correct, we thought they were done with. Leaderboard achievements still exist in 2015, and that game is The Elder Scrolls Online. So you'll probably spend a couple hundred hours working on your character, working through the story, getting a majority of the kind of progressional achievements out of the way, collecting up to 300 of the collectibles scattered across the large map, and then you'll come to 2 achievements which are a little bit ridiculous. One of them is called Master Fisher, which is for completing all of the fishing achievements. Not that difficult, right? Actually it is. There's like a whole list of like 64 different in-game challenges you'll need to do to get this to unlock. After that, you'll need to complete some of the hardest bosses in the game, and then get the Emperor achievement, which is for dominating the Alliance War battlefield and becoming Emperor of the land. Now, what that means in speak of people who don't play this game is be number 1 on the leaderboard, and once you're number 1 on the leaderboard, make sure your team wins the battle, and once your team wins the battle, if you're on the very top, you'll be the Emperor of the best faction, therefore you'll get the achievement. Now, the leaderboard does reset every week, so there's up to a potential of 1 person who can get this achievement every week, but keep in mind you're competing against other people who want it just as bad. In one of the text posts I read, a guy played 20 hours for like 4 days straight just to be able to be on top of the leaderboard. And even once he was there, he wasn't sure if the other factions would beat his faction, and then it would be all for nothing. So yeah, it's tough, it's random, it involves being the best in the world. So if you're gonna be the best in the world, that's a 10 out of 10 in skill. It takes hundreds of hours, at least like 250, if not 300 plus hours to beat this game. Easily number 2. So we've made our way from number 10 through to number 2, and the hardest, the longest, the most in-depth game you can possibly complete in 2015 is Elite Dangerous. Now, believe it or not, the most difficult achievement in this game is for completing the tutorials. Only a handful of people, yes, less than 5, have completed all of the tutorials, and on top of that, you will need to play the game for up to 800 hours pre-planned with exactly what you're going to be doing for all 800 hours in order to get all the achievements. You heard me right. You might be playing 800 hours, and if you didn't plan it properly to buy all the ships and fly everywhere and do all the things you can in this game, you will not have all the achievements. There's 1 person who has all the achievements and 1 person who is missing 1, and they are missing the tutorials achievement, which has a difficulty of 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10 depending on who you ask. This game also has a ridiculously high learning curve, and most players will just flat out be too frustrated once getting into it for the first time to ever try to continue. With all of those factors accounted for, once I started talking to people about this game, how difficult some of the achievements are, and how much of a time suck this game is, I had no other option but to put it at the number 1 spot. Every person I spoke to had absolute great things to say about it. If you like space combat exploration and simulation, this is as good as it gets. That's a pretty niche market, and that is a long time to spend for 1,000 GamerScore. So kudos to Onasaur, which is that one guy who's completed it this year. Maybe another 1 or 2 will complete it next year, but who knows. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've completed any of those games, or even played any of those games, let me know down below if you've beat them. You deserve that respect. If you haven't, let me know if you think my opinions were correct in the comments down below. Hopefully for those people who like a challenge, this is something that they can work towards. Also, as a side note, the hardest/longest DLC list goes to Battlefield, which added an achievement for getting 40,000 online kills 10,000 with each class. That's ridiculous. That's too many. For a game with such an easy base 1,000 to add that kind of DLC, are you joking? That's not okay. So we just counted down the 10 hardest games of the year, and you might be like, yo, Macca, I ain't about that life. What about the easy games? I'm counting those down too. Luckily, I have you covered. Check out my top 10 easiest games of the year. Link in the corner or down in the description. If you're a GamerScore whore like me, you probably want to check out that list because you can get like 15,000 GamerScore in like less than 20 hours if you follow some of my tips in that video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I actually do read all of your comments, so if you have anything to say, even if it's not that nice and you disagree with me, that's cool. Put it down below. I'll get back to you if I can. Thank you so much for watching. Peace!